Yeah. Boss, I think we're on the top of Ches. So we're going through a long drasha here. There's many parts to it. How are we doing? We're exchanging technology here because I also want to learn about technology. Okay, so we're talking about a Gemara here on that's quoted in the last paragraph on Zion that we mentioned yesterday on Daf Ayin Beis Amid Beis, and we're darshaning a long pasuk here in Vayikra Tezvav, and it says V'Yishaki Yazuv Zov Dama Yamim Rabim Below Eis Niddah. Okay, so now we stopped in the middle of the pasuk to take a break and read and interpret the words below Eis Niddah. That's on the top of Ches, right? And the Gemara darshins Samuch L'Niddah. So that means that she saw on the 8th day. So she had a first re'iyah, count 7 days of Niddah, and now the pasuk is describing a case of Ki Yazuv Zov Dama Yamim Rabim. So what does it say here? It says below Eis Niddah. Correct? So we're talking about a ziva of dam beyond Niddah. So Niddah is the first 7 days, and now below Eis Niddah means day 8. Okay? So she sees now on day number 8. Now, how do we get days number 9 and 10? Because we said that she only becomes a Zava after 3 consecutive days of her Iyah. So that I think we're going to derive from Yamim Rabim, right? Yamim Rabim, Rabim is always the minimum of 2. And it says below Eis Niddah, which is day 8, after she finished on Niddah. So she said, so it says Yazov Dov Dama, and it says Yamim Rabim below Eis Niddah. So below Eis Niddah goes back on Yamim Rabim, and Yamim Rabim is a minimum of 2, and below Eis Niddah means day number 9. So we have 9, 10, and 11. And that makes it into a Zava Gedol. Okay then? Now, at this point in the drasha, we're going to have to figure out what about beyond lo Eis Niddah? If lo Eis Niddah, those 3 words are referring to the 9th day, what happens beyond the 9th day? Let's say she doesn't see Dam on day number 8, right? But she sees Dam on day number 9. If she does, or let's say beyond that, she doesn't see Dam on day number 9. She sees Dam on the day number 10. So let's say she didn't see on day 8, she saw on day 9. So that's called muflag. Muflag means separating. So there's a separation, a fast forward from her Yemei Niddah 1 day. Now she saw 3 days consecutively, but she had skipped that day number 8. So she only saw days 9, 10, and 11. How do we know that she's a Zava Gedola for 3 consecutive days when there was a hefsek, and she jumps from day 7 over to day 9 because day 8 was Naki? Tamalomar o ki tazu. So it's again going back to the pasuk here on the bottom of page 9, or page Zion, I mean. It says, after it says ki azov zov dama yamim rabim below Eis Niddah. So below Eis Niddah, so we said samach l'niddah, which was day 8. And Yazuv Zov Dama Yomim Rabim means 2 extra days. So that was 8, 9, and 10. Now it says O Ki Tazuv. What is the extra O Ki Tazuv coming to include? And that's a ribui of muflag. Muflag means beyond below Eis Niddah. So below Eis Niddah is what? Is day 8. And muflag, which is derived from the extra words O Ki Tazuv, Muflag sets up day 9, which means 9, 10, and 11. That makes it into Zavak Gadol. Okay, but that's only a muflag of Yom Echad. Right? You only skip that one day between the end of the 7 and the beginning of Haziba, which was on day 9. So there's only one day in between, and that was day number 8. How do we know if there's a muflag of 2 days, of 3 days, of 4 days, of 5 days, of 6 days, of 7 days, of 8 days, of 9 days, of 10 days? Minayin. Minayin shibrasa biyom hasiri li'irasa rishon. So that would be a muflag of 2 days, right? Just 8 and 9, which were Nikiyah, and only 10 was a Re'iyah. Or let's say she sees on day 11, so she had 3 days of Haflaga, etc., etc. Amrit Mama Tzinu Biravi. Okay, now we're going to introduce day number 4. So she had a Re'iyah of 3 consecutive days. And now we're going to focus on Revi, on Yom Revi. Sheroy l'sfira, v'roy l'ziva. Okay. Let's see what those words mean, roy l'sfira and roy l'ziva. Kimoshe matzinu, b'yom Revi, liyamei aziva. So let's see what happens. If she sees on 8, 9, and 10, follow what I mean by 8, 9, and 10, right? There were 7 days of Niddah, and now she sees Samach, below Eis Nidasa, Samach Nidasa on 8, and then she has Yom Rabim is 8, 9, and 10. So now we have Yom Revi, Revi li Ziva. Revi li Ziva is day number 11, correct? 8, 9, 10. All those form a unit called Samach Nidasa. Now we have something called Muflag, which goes beyond Samach Nidasa, and that's called day number 11. Now, day number 11 could actually be, in a case where she saw 8, 9, and 10, that could be the first day of the Zayin Nikiyah. That's called Revi. Who Yom Echadasar l'Re'iyah Rishona Shu Roy l'Sfira Shiva Nikiyah the Ofen Sheras of Yom Shmini Shi Vasir l'Re'iyah Rishona She Yom Echadasar Hu Yom Rishon l'Sfira Shivas Nikiyah Who Kamochen Matzinu Bochu Roy l'Ziva Hainu Shimras of Yom Chi. Right, we already had a ribui for Chi, and that was called Muflag L'Nidasa Yom Echa, which we derived from the pasuk Ki Tazu. Now she sees Chi, Asiri, and Achadasa. So that means the 11th day could either be the first day of Zayin Nikiyim in a case where she saw 8, 9, and 10, or it could be Royal Ziva in a case where she saw 9, 10, and 11. So now the 11th day, counting from the original Dam Riyah, the first Riyah that she had, that 11th day could go, it's like 2 roads diverge in the yellow wood. It could go in 1 and 2 directions. It could be the first of Zayin Nikiyah. Or if she sees Dam on day 11, it could be actually the clincher that completes Hayumei Ziva if she started her Ziva on day number 9 with a haflaga of 1 day, which is called below Eis Nidasa. I'm sorry, that's derived from Kitazo. So Hare, in this case, where she saw on day 11 and the first Re'iyah after Niddah was on day 9, then Yom HaChadasar Riyas Rishonim it's Tarif L'Minyan Shloshus Yimei Ziva to make her into a Zavak Gadol. And that's what we derive from Kitazu, that the 9th day could be the first of 3 days of Ziva. So what's unique about Revi, and again, Revi is another way of saying 11, is that that day is Roy Sphira and Roy Liziva. Do you have that? That's the, so to speak, the paradox of day 4, which is day 11. Why is it called 4? Because she saw an 8, 9, and 10, 3 days consecutively. Now 11 becomes, right, day 4 in that Ziva process. And what's unique about that day 4, or otherwise known as day 11, is that it could go one of 2 ways. If she sees Dam, it becomes a clincher of Yemei Ziva in a case where her first Riyah was on day 9. It could become the first of Zayin Nikim if she doesn't see any Dam. So that's the sort of, I don't know if I could call it the paradox of Yom Revi. The paradox of day 11 is that, we're really waiting to see what's going to happen on day 11. Because if the experiment succeeds, it's the beginning of Yemei Sfira. If the experiment fails, she had 2 Re'iyos before this, days 9 and 10, it could be bad news because it's the 3rd Re'iyah in this consecutive 3 Re'iyos, and that clinches her status as Zava Gedolah. So that's the unique status of Revi. K'mo chen, yesh l'rabos kol hayomim ha'ra'uyim l'sfiras zayin nikiyim. So we're going to set up a calculation of all the days that could be included in Zayin Nikiyim. And that's going to take us all the way to day 10. Okay, let's see how that works out. Behem ad yom hasiri liyamei haziva. Kolel yom hasiri. Okay, he works this out. He doesn't rely on our intelligence. Array. Rasa shloshi yemei haziva rishonim, which means 8, 9, and 10. Array he soferes zayin nikiyim miyom achadasa. All right, so she saw 8, 9, and 10. 11 becomes the first of Zayin Nikiyim. So Zayin Nikiyim are going to take us ad Yom Shvasa. So that means day 11, in a case where she saw 8, 9, and 10, is the first of 7 days. So we have 11, etc., and day 17 becomes the completion of her Yimei Sfira, of Zayin Nikiyim. Shehem Yomim Haru'im L'Ziva Gamkein, Shimrasa V'chol Minyan Yomim Elu Shloshi Yom Harehi Zava Gedola. So now we understand that going from, in the case where she saw 8, 9, and 10, so going from day 11 to day 17, which is a 7-day period of time, that's the period of Yemei Ziva, because in any of those days, if she sees 3 consecutive days of Re'iyah, she becomes a Zava Gedol. So let's read the Gemara again. Amrit, Ma matzinu b'revi sheroy l'sfira v'roy l'ziva afani avi ha'asiri sheroy l'sfira v'roy l'ziva. Just 1 second. Yeshel Rabos, Kol Hayomim L'Sfiras Shiva Nikiyim. Behem Ad Yom Hasiri L'Yemei Ziva. So it's a little tricky here because when it says Afani Avi Hasiri, right, the word Asiri means that we're counting Yemei Ziva, including the Yom Hasiri. So that means from day 11 to day 17, all those days have that double possibility that we spoke about with regard to Revi. Right? If she didn't see on day number 8, but she saw 9, 10, and 11, So that day 11 would complete Haziva. Alternatively, it could be the first of Yemei Sphira. And we go from day 11 all the way till day 17, because all of those days in between can either be part of the Zayin Nikim if she doesn't see Nidam, or they could be a Meziva, and if she had any unit of 3 consecutive days of Re'iyah during that time period, up until day 17, she would become a Zava Gedolah. You remember, Rabosa, yesterday we discussed the very great significance of the day 18, not because of Chag, but because day 18, according to the Rambam Shita, is the end of a Yemei Ziva, right? Because Yemei Ziva start on day 8, and they go from 8 until 18. Why? Because there are 11 days starting from the last day of Yemei Niddah, which is day 7, until you get to day 18. And now we're beginning to see unfolding in front of us how we come up with that number 18, why the number 18 begins a new kufa, so to speak, a new ona called Onas Niddah, Yemei Niddah. And the reason for that is because any days in between Revi and Asiri, which is the same as 11 to 17, any of those days are royal Ziva or royal Sphira. Now, if any of those days are royal Ziva, that means that the haflaga here is increased one day at a time, if you follow what I mean. So when you get to that ona that starts with day 11 until day 17, then if you're telling me that on any of those days are royal ziva, right? That's the point here, that Revi is royal. Again, Revi is royal ziva because we derive from below Asti Dasa 9, 10, and 11. Right? We said Revi is the same as 11. Correct? So that's haflug of one day, which we derive from below Asti Dasa. How do we expand the haflaga beyond the 9th day? For example, let's say she didn't see neither on 8th nor on the 9th day. So now we have a flood of 2 days. And the answer is that since we've established that any day between day 11 and day 17 is royal Ziva and royal Spira, that means that any of those days she can begin a period of Ziva if she has 3 consecutive years. So we're taking the haflaga and we're expanding it. I mean, just a simple example. Let's say, for example, she doesn't see neither on day 8 nor on day 9. So now we have 2 days of haflaga, which we cannot derive from below Eis Nidasa, because below Eis Nidasa only gave us 1 day of haflaga. Now we can derive 2 days of haflaga, because if she sees on days, let's say 10, 11, and 12, right? So she had haflaga of both 8 and 9, and now she sees dam on day 10. That dam on day 10 is royal ziva. It's royal spirit, it's royal ziva. Uminayin lirabos acharasa. Okay, let's see this. Minayin lirabos gam yom acharasa limei ziva. Irosa chi vasiri vacharasar. So chi means what? That she had a flaga of 1 day. Already zava gedol. So I'm not exactly sure why you need a ribui for that. Minayin lirabos gam yom acharasar. Limei haziva. She's tarif limei ziva kodlo 9, 10, and 11. Now I lost it. Again, we said that muflag l'niddah yom echad, which means that she saw 9, 10, and 11, and she becomes a Sova Gadol. That we derive from Ki Tuz. That's 9, 10, and 11. What's he saying now? Minayin l'rabos achadasar. Also 9, 10, and 11. I don't get it. He's repeating what we said before. I don't get it. How is this different from the second paragraph on our page? Right? Muflag l'niddah yom echad minayin. Right? So she saw 9, 10, and 11. That's muflag mi yom echad. Second. Yom Chi. She had afloga. And what's this case now? She Assyrian Achadasa. The same as El Bazak. I don't get it. Afloga of Yom Echad. Another Rabbi Skam. Yom Achadasa Limei Ziva. Starfli Mei Ziva. I'm sorry, am I off base? It's mamish word for word what we saw before. But what am I missing here? Can somebody come to the? I need a cavalry here. Okay. Which means and I don't have it. So it sounds like a repetition, 9, 10, and 11, no? I'm going to underline these words. Rasa, she, Asiri, Achadasa. Let's go back up to the second paragraph, and it says that Rasa Yom Shi, Nimshcha Asiri V'Achadasa. So it's 9, 10, and 11. Here also, 9, 10, and 11. I understand. We're going to have to skip this one. Yochal Shani Marba Af Shnei Masar. Yesh L'Rabbo says Yom Achadasar Limei Aziva. Shuroy L'Spiras Nikim Limei Aziva Shenes Rabbi O Ki Tazu. Lois Yom Shnei Masar. Yesh L'Rabbo says Yom Achadasar Limei Aziva. So what does it mean? Yeah, she had a flog of 2 days. Is that what he's saying? Royal spheres, the kiyum. Oh no. He's talking not about making her into a sava, but on the contrary, removing her state of siva through zayin kiyum. We had a ribui that she could become a zav. if she sees 9, 10, and 11 with a flug of 2 days. Now we want to know, how do we derive that day, which could make her into a zava, which we said in the case of a flaga of 9, 10, 11, that day 11 would clinch a ziva. How do we know that 10, that day of 11, could also be the beginning of Sfiras Nikiyim? Los Yom Shnei Masa. She'eno Roy was Nikiyim, Me'aziva. She'kein Kasub, O Ki Tazov. Israba Yom Sheni, Shlishi Revi. Yimei Aziva, Shehem Chi Asiri V'Achas B'Mrosa B'Hem Arisofer Shivanikim Ad Yom Achas Olu Me'aziv. So what do we need this ribui for? Yochel Shenimar Ba'af Shnei Masar Amrit La. Mari Yisrael Rabos Acharesar Lahotzi Shnei Masar Abani Acharesar Cheroy L'Sfir L'Zar Hotzi Ani Shnei Masar Shein Roy L'Sfiras O Ki Tazu. So Yisrael Rabos Yom Acharesar Limei Aziva Sheroy L'Sfiras Kim Bimei Haziva Shesrabo. So below es Yom Shnei Masar. She'eno Roy L'Sfiras Nikiyim Bimei Haziva Shesrabo Mi Oki Tazov. Shemin HaKosuv Oki Tazuv Yitzraba Yom Sheni V'Shlishi Reveal Yimei Haziva Shehem Chi Asiri V'Achadasar L'Los Harishona. Somehow he's excluding day number 12. Am I right? Right, Yochel is usually introducing a Havamina. Havamina is I could be Marba number 12. So let's say she sees on days 10, 11, and 12. So 12 would clinch her status as Zava Gedola, or alternatively, 12 could be the beginning of Zion Nikiyim. And let's say in the case where she saw 9, 10, and 11. So if she saw 10 and 11, then 12 could be Roy Leziva. If she saw not 10 and 11, but 9, 10, and 11, then day 12 could be the beginning of her Sphere Zion Nikiyim. Amrit La. Now we're going to find a mute to exclude 12. So Mara Isa Larabos Achadasa Lahotzi Shnei Masar. Why do you include 11 and exclude 12? Because we already derived 11, right? In the case where she saw 9, 10, and 11. So day 11 could either be that or that. And now we're excluding day 12. Why? Marbani Achadasa Sharoy L'Spira O Ki Tazu. Obzianiya Shnei Masar She'eno Roy L'Sfiras O Ki Tazu. right? Because Oki Tazuv was teaching us 9, 10, and 11, but it doesn't teach us day 12. Oki Tazuv is going to be Marba 11. Which is 9, 10, and 11. The lowest. What does this last line mean to you? In Rasa Bahev, so she saw 3 years consecutively on 9, 10, and 11. Ari Sofera Shivin Akiyim. And he says, Ad Yom Achadasol Yimei Aziv. What does that mean? 11 and 7, we said 18. That's the 11th day of Yimei Aziva. If you add Yimei Niddah plus 11, so you get 18. And now we're excluding 12. What? She saw on days 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so now she's a Zava Gedola. Now we count side. So that's 12. That 12 will take us beyond Yemei Ziva. Right? If let's say she saw 10, 11, and 12, now you add 7 days of Makir. So 7, 12 plus 12 is 19. Maybe that's what he means. That day number 19 is beyond the Yemei Ziva. Does that make sense? Day number 19 is already into the Niddah period, right? She's finished with Ziva because we only have 11 days of Ziva. So at the end of the day, what are we saying about this case where she sees days 10, 11, and 12? So day 12 would be royalist Ziva, but not royalist Sphira. Why? Because then Hazayin and Kiyim are going to take her out of what? Out of Yemei Ziva into the next period, which is Yemei Niddah. So halacha l'maisa, what are we deriving from this Amrit Lahav, this bid, in a case where she saw 10, 11, and 12? That's what I can't figure out. Can you figure that out? Yochani Marba Af Shnei Masar, which I think he means 10, 11, and 12. right? He says, "Veloes yom shnei masar." You see those words, "She'eno royal spheres nikim b'yemei aziva." Is that correct? Because the last of the 7 days is going to take you beyond Yemei Aziva to day number 19. But mostly, I'll tell you the truth. If what I'm reading here is the way I understand it, I'm coming to the conclusion that you always need, based on the Ribui, a day which could function in two capacities. It could be the third day of Yemei Ziva, and it could be the first day of Yemei Sphira. So we need both Ziva and Sphira. And when we get to 9, 10, and 11, then we can have day 11 as Royal Ziva and Royal, I'm saying Royal Ziva and Royal Sphira, because from 11 we're going to count to day 18 and we're still within Yemei Ziva. But in the case where she saw 10, 11, and 12, the day 12 is Royal Ziva, but it's not Royal Sphira, and therefore what? Now I'm trying. Let's say if we're correct up to this point in our calculations, so what's the bottom line? That she cannot become a Zov if she sees 10, 11, and 12? That doesn't make sense. We have some sort of immunity. Right? Whenever you see the word Yachol, you know that you're introducing a mute. And the Amrit Lo is the opposite of Yachol. So Yachal Nimar Ba'af Shnei Masar, which means she saw 9, 10, and she saw 10, 11, and 12, right? And I want to be marba then. For what? For Ziva? And for sure she's a Zav. Amrit Lo. No, she's not a Zav in that case. So again, I can only say what I think is right here in the text. And it seems like the conclusion from this text is that if she sees 10, 11, and 12, she does not become a Zav. Which doesn't make any sense. That's what it's. What's this footnote? Kufi Dalid? Does it help any? Bachronim. Maybe that's a half in the Chomer. So I'm going to leave this as an open-ended question, but it definitely seems from the text, if I read it correctly, I don't see another way of reading it, that in case where she sees 10, 11, and 12, right, which means she had a flogga of 2 days of 8 and 9. Correct? 8 and 9, she had a flogga. And then she sees 10, 11, and 12, that she does not become a Zava because she cannot count Zayin Akiyim within Yemei Ziva. I don't know. Again, none of this is going to be halacha l'maisa because we don't accept, the strict structure and calendar of the Rambam. The other Rishonim say, it just goes from Niddah to Zav if she sees 3 riyas consecutive 3 days, and then you count Zayin Akiyim. I mean, there's no hardcore, setting up Yemei Ziva in the way the Rambam says it. So it means all of this was Rabbi Akiva with this complex drasha, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah just has it simply as halacha l'Moshe Misina. All right, so let's stop here on the top of the left column here on Daf Chet. Okay, so we'll put this away, and we'll open up tomorrow.